But we thought that today would be a nice introduction to explain to people why the moon matters to us and kind of like the way that we look at it and the way that we use the moon in our kind of like everyday life, basically. So I'll start first. For me, the moon is like this tangible way that I can focus on a little bit of self-care for myself, because that's something that I've lacked in for most of my life, is self-care. And also mindfulness and just being in the present are things that I'm actually not really good at. And so having something physical to look at that exists every day, something I can see every day, it really helps me to kind of ground and center and focus my intentions throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year. I'm a big fan. I come from a 12-step background, and something that we do every single day in the 12-step world is, I guess not every single day, something I did every single day when I was actively in the 12-step world was taking stock, taking inventory, and kind of like seeing where I was, like emotionally, physically, how I was feeling, and working through any sort of like hiccups or fears or anything that I was finding throughout my day. I'm no longer part of the 12-step world for a variety of reasons, but that idea of taking stock, taking inventory is something that I always really liked and really resonated with. And when I was no longer actively participating in the meetings and in the rooms, is what we would say, then I found that I was really pulling away from that. So thinking about the moon and the lunar cycle as a way to regularly take stock, take inventory of myself, how I was feeling, how I was working towards my goals, how I was working towards just being and becoming the person that I want to be, has been really helpful. So using the moon as my calendar for that is really why I started to care at all about the moon cycles. So we'll talk about the phases, and Nancy and I came from two different moon phases. Like we started, I think, in two different phases of the moon. So we can talk about that, why we chose the phases that we chose in a minute. But Nancy, why don't you first share like why the moon matters to you?
Yeah, I was actually thinking a lot about this morning, specifically like wanting to start at the beginning. Mostly when you mentioned that people are kind of curious, but it's like, but I don't know. And it's like, where do I jump in? And they don't want to sound like, well, I don't know. Like people just, anyway, first of all, I was thinking more recently, I guess the past year, no, I'm lying. Yeah, year and a half, but more closer to 2 years. I've been doing it because my period hasn't been regular. And I guess ultimately it's been more like 3, but more where I'm actually diligently trying to do it, because without getting a period, it's hard to tell, like, for me, like when my normal hormone rage would start. And not being on birth control anymore, like hormonal birth control, and really wanting to like know myself like as a natural being as much as I could. So without now a period, and now without the hormone birth control regulating that, and 3 kids later, blah, 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 blah. So I was thinking about that. And that has been, like you were saying, like a calendar understanding. More the very first time I started doing it, like how we shared, and even in our moon groups, more than the calendar though, was for manifesting and for when I was first understanding like energy. And because I didn't really have a lot of like place to start with that, I kind of like was playing around on Google one day and I saw somebody say, oh, manifest with the moon. I'm like, what the fuck's that mean? You know what I mean? And you know how it goes for me. So I'm like, one thing led to another. And next thing I was like thinking, well, the next full moon, I'll go through the steps, like think of things that I want to let go, think of things that I want. And back then, without having a guide, it was like, I want to let go of fighting with my husband. It was always like, and I want more money next week. Next week I would like $150 more. I would literally write that. You know what I mean? Because I just thought that, and without having like somebody that I could talk to, that's what I thought it was. So surprisingly, when that didn't successfully just take off, but I could tell that there was something there. I could feel my something reacting some sort of way. And then the other parts of the energy stuff started kind of tying in. So it kept me going, but it was more for like spiritual connection to like a higher power, because I didn't come from a religious space, which was the ultimate very, very first. So it was like 3. So the very first now is for menopause. The very first initially was for manifesting. And then the very first as a child was because like I wanted to believe in God, and it was scary that there wasn't a God, but like I could pray to the moon. The moon usually showed up every night, and I could at least know like, you know, that was solid. And I was thinking, I was like, well, why did I pray to the sun? I was like, probably because the shit was too bright and hot. But like, so really, it was really that simple as a kid. Like, this guy shows up. If this is what a God would be, you know what I mean? Like, it was really that kind of And then as I got older, it kind of kept coming back. And not even until this morning did I really connect all the dots that it was bigger than just this. So yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really great point, which is we often start for one reason, but it shifts and like our purpose changes within it. Like, I mean, the whole reason that this Zoom even started was because you and I hosted that full moon Zoom, no, the new moon Zoom. And a lot of people were private messaging me. I don't know if they were messaging you too. Like, I'm really interested, but like, I don't do anything with the moon. I don't know where to start, whatever. And I was like, begin where you begin. Like, it doesn't matter at all. And so I loved how you said that your reasoning for following the moon and for the way that you kind of enjoy the moon has changed over time, because mine continues to grow exponentially, especially this year. This has been a really transformative year for me as far as kind of like magic, MAGICK goes. And my moon, just like my lunar cycling, has really changed a lot. So let's be like really basic, begin at the beginning, and talk about just the phases of the moon and kind of briefly what people might experience in those phases and why the moon. Actually, let's even back up before that. Like, why the moon? Versus why do we choose the moon versus other parts of the world that we could be tracking our lives on? So, do you have a particular reason?
I'll do tracking and then send it back to you. So I picked the moon because I've always preferred night to day. It's more private, it's more intimate, and I didn't feel like anybody would see me. So it felt like I was safe. And then there was one other reason. It was I feel like in like fairy tales and stories, like the moon magic was always there, even if I didn't even know about it. And then there was one other thing when you said why the moon then another, but I think it had to do with the night preference. Oh, and then the moon connection to the oceans and the waves, and that was something I learned in elementary school, like kindergarten. I was engaged for wanting to study weather. So, but then that was like, I was doing 4 hours of homework as a kindergartner. My mom was like, this is not what people do. So then I became like one of these kids who didn't ever want to go to school. Anyway, but yeah, like that was what it was. It was like, well, the moon and the ocean, they're buddies. That's my favorite. You know, it was always pretty like simple because I didn't have anything there's a better word, anything bigger or more like anything else really, I guess. I just made it up as I went.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. The moon and its relationship to the tides and the oceans, absolutely. Like, it makes it more tangible to me. Like, the moon magic is so much more tangible to me than other types of magic that exist.
Right.
Also for me, the moon, because it's a nighttime thing and there's the whole thinning of the veil, my family, there's a long history of people in my family with the sixth sense, and I'm one of them. And so I just feel the connection to the spirit realm so much more in the nighttime. So it made a lot more sense for me to be just being introspective at night than it does during the day. I mean, I think ideally I would be doing this stuff at 2:00 in the morning, but as much as I love to celebrate the moon, I don't love to stay up that late. So I just stay up as late as I can and call it a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the magical and the spiritual aspect of it, I feel so much more at night than during the day.
Shut that door. Get up and shut that door.
So let's talk about the phases. Okay. There are 8 phases. And for me, it makes perfect sense why the first phase that I ever celebrated was the new moon. And like, if you know me, you know that makes perfect sense because I like to do things in order, the
Right.
way that it goes. And so the new moon is the beginning of the first day of the new lunar 28-ish day cycle. So I like resonated so much with the new moon, but also for me, or not for me, the new moon signifies beginnings and setting intentions. And so it just felt like the right place for me to start. If I was taking inventory of myself, then Then I wanted to be in a place where I was thinking about, okay, here's where I am. Here is kind of how I'm feeling. What is something that I really want to be thinking about right now and focusing on? And the new moon is the place to do that, because it's the place to set intentions, to set your focus, and to really start thinking about what are your priorities over the next 28 days. And I think something that something that I got caught up in was like, oh, I have to, every 28 days, every new moon, I need a new intention, right? Like I have to have completed that intention in the last cycle, which isn't true at all. I think of it more as just mindfulness. And like, I just want to have that awareness and check in every month, at least once a month, on my intentions. And so the new moon as the beginning was the perfect place for me personally to begin. Although actually I think a lot of people, that's not the first place where they begin, because everybody loves to talk about the full moon.
Right. I was one of those. I just, like you said, like, I mean, for me, it was like, it popped up online, like nobody did new moon. And the new moon for me only came after so many practicing as in just like you said, the mindfulness, like taking stock and going through the steps. But like, I didn't even come onto the new moon until easily like a year and a couple months after doing full moon. And finally, it was like a couple of weeks after the new moon. And I'm like, I need to ritualize. And I'm like, but where am I in the moon right now? Like at that point, I was only doing full moon. So it was like, yeah, it was either full moon or not quite full moon yet. So yeah, like,
well, I think the other reason that it makes a lot of sense that people start with the full moon is because that's the highest energy that you have throughout the lunar cycle versus the new moon, which is the lowest energy. So if you are really in tune with the moon cycle, then a lot of people are feeling very like mellow and more introspective in the new moon. So I do think that like you're less likely to want to go outside and light a candle or whatever in the new moon. But I don't know, it resonated really strongly with me. It always has. It still continues to be my favorite phase of the moon. And I still continue to do something every new moon, even if it's not something huge and impactful every month. So let's talk about the cycle, though, before we get too much into the full moon chat. So the new moon is when you cannot see any of moon. It's the dark moon is another way that you can hear it described. And so it's the darkest out of the 28-ish day lunar cycle. It's the darkest day of the year, which is actually another reason I picked it, because I love lighting a fire, and it just made tons of sense to light a fire when it's black out.
I never actually thought about that. That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, I light fires like all the time, but it made tons of sense to do it when it was dark out. So like I said, it's the beginning of the cycle. It's a really great time to be setting your intentions. And then as we move towards the full moon, our energy is going to grow. And our next kind of like big phase is the waxing crescent moon, which is like when the moon's like a quarter full, I guess. And so we're seeing things are moving forward. We are continuing to think about our goals and work towards our goals. We're starting to feel the buildup of the energy. So it's probably becoming a little bit easier to start working on your goals that you had set in the beginning of the cycle. And it's a really great time to be dreaming. So I find not just dreaming kind of two ways. So dreaming, one, like actually picking up your journal and like thinking about longer term goals, but also like when you're sleeping, dreams that you have when you sleep. I find that during the time between the new moon and the full moon, I have the most vivid dreams. I don't know if everyone feels that way. But yeah, I think it just kind of goes to show how attracted I am to the new moon.
Yeah. I prefer the new moon now to the full moon. But this, what is it? You said the waxing crescent. I'm still learning waxing, waning. But this, and I think today is the first day of that. Technically, it's like 9 days before, and that's what I've been tracking for me. Those are like my most best spots. Is like the first day of the waxing and the first day of the waning or waning or
Raining, yeah.
yeah, when it first basically starts shifting the next, I guess the quarter way, then but those like today I woke up like my energy was like, yes, let's get this. And then, but you can definitely tell the difference phase wise for me, because like this being closer to the full moon, I want action. I'm feeling this big energy and I want to get out and I want to like, I've already started like 15 projects. Today is my busiest day of the week. And I'm like making fucking botanicals and ecosystems, and I'm studying sign language and runes. And I'm like, why am I distracted? I don't know. But like, yeah, but I just woke up and I'm just like, oh my God, I just can't get enough. Versus like with the new moon right after that, it's almost just like you would imagine what the flowers feel like when they first come out of the dirt. It's just like, ooh, what can we do now? It's just like creative fun, and like that inspiring versus this is like, so that's where I feel the difference is like the full and the new moon now are almost kind of markers more than anything, but these 9 days on each end, they're my biggest, like from like what you were saying, like studying with the body, like they're my ones. And I woke up today, I was like, today's got to be a day.
Yeah. I don't know exactly where we are in the lunar cycle, so I know that if we aren't there yet, we're really close to the first quarter moon.
It's today.
That is it. Yeah. So that is so that's, you've got the gibbous and then you have first quarter, and first quarter is definitely where like that march towards peak begins. So I think it makes perfect sense that you would be having so much energy today.
I don't know anything about the moon phase names. I never ever learned that. I knew full and new, and then like I'm just now learning waxing and waning, and I still can barely say that. But like yeah, so to me I do like 4 phases. I do know that but I'm just like, are we here? But but I like that makes sense about like a peak, because you can so feel that like yeah. And it's 9 days. It's 9 days between each. I don't know where the math lies in that. Does that make sense math wise?
Yeah.
But it's almost always dead on for me.
Yeah, and this is a really great time if you are feeling that energy to start reevaluating where you are with whatever intentions you set with the new moon, because you have the energy now for the next however many days to really be pushing forward. Because our energy, like I said, it goes up, it peaks at the full moon, and then it starts going down again. So this is like the time where we can really just be getting shit done.
And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense with creation, because the new moon, the lowest energy, right? It's almost like a blank slate, like a start over. And then after that first quarter where the peak of creativity and inspiration comes, right? And then about halfway, you start getting that shift and almost a lull again, but after that lull, you get the next one where it's like, okay, now it's time to go. Because you got to think, like, first I got an idea, and then I did a little bit of inspired action, and now I've done a whole, like you were saying, I've done a whole inventory, and now it's time to like put all this into place.
Yeah. And the way that it happens practically for me is that like I'm just constantly reminding myself. It's not so much that I'm like, oh, it's the first quarter moon, I have to do this, whatever. It's just like, oh, look at the moon. It's big today. Like, like let me think about something, you know what I mean? Like let me just like take a minute and take a couple of deep breaths or whatever. So it's not like I don't follow any sort of strict guidelines related to this, but I think it is helpful to know, like if I'm not feeling particularly motivated, like it's helpful for me to be like, oh well, the moon is like this big, so of course I'm not like, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with me, like that's just what's happening right now in the atmosphere, so I'm gonna deal with it and know that
doesn't even want to be here. So
yeah, so we've got the first quarter moon, and then we move on to the waxing gibbous moon.
Is that the one in the middle that
that's the one right before the full moon.
It's like, when you gotta poop and there's no bathroom, it's like that annoying, like
prairie dogging it.
That's my least favorite part, and usually it's about 3 days. thank God, because if I could do much more, woo, Jesus.
Yeah, I love, and you like on Facebook and on social media in general, like you definitely have the most to say right before the full moon.
Oh God, I go nuts. You could find me you could find me running away. Like seriously, the time I wanted to go to Haiti, it was right around the full moon. I'm like, uh-oh, I think I gotta go to Haiti.
Yeah. In our house, that is where my son Jackson, that's the time that he starts to like lose sleep and kind of be a little bit crankier too.
Yeah.
No idea why.
Elias's amp up is more like mine. By the full moon, he's exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But the past couple nights, this is his house, and we just pay bills and feed him. He doesn't want to talk anymore. He's refusing to do any potty training efforts.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, so it's like, okay.
Yeah. And like that's the beauty of knowing like, oh, it's gonna last a few days and it'll be fine.
yeah, and that's another reason why it was so important for me, like you were saying, to kind of know what made sense. Like because before when I was younger, my period was like it was like Tuesdays at 1:00, it'll be here, you know? I mean, it was like that for years and years. And then even with birth control, it's even more like that. So I really wanted a way to like kind of have that same, well, how do I track now? But like, you know, so yeah, it's so many things I feel like, and it's reliable, you know, it's not wishy-washy. The president can't change it when he's fucking, shut up, Nancy. But you know what I mean? Like, well, the moon isn't really real anymore, guys. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, like nobody could do anything to that. It feels pretty real. So
it feels pretty real. It's like definitely up there.
It's consistent as fuck. Consistency is like my main thing.
Yeah, it is consistent.
Oh yeah.
So then we have the full moon.
Yes.
The full moon, everybody's favorite.
Yes, the one that gets all the show,
all the glory.
Troublemaker.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, even though I started with the new moon, like for at least 2019, probably even earlier than that, a couple times I would go to your house and celebrate the full moon too. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
the togetherness of it all.
I think I love that. For me though, I was thinking when you were saying before, sometimes I don't even do moon things at night, like because you know it's bigger than what I can see out of the window. So, and also my sleep is so crazy that I know God does not want me to mess with that any more than I do. So it's kind of like, you know, just kind of a knowing. And like you were saying, like how, you know, like to schedule, I kind of like adjust with like meditation practices or, you know, kind of adjust yoga more that way. But I don't always, often, I don't usually do any kind of like actual moon thing unless I'm having friends over now, because like it's kind of just like an everyday practice, like you know what I mean, it just kind of keeps going. But it is always nice to like have people over and like, and I think that's something that's not normal, but it could be like, why can't we get together and talk about like dreams and goals and encourage each other, you know what I mean? Like and then just and like having the connection of the moon. I mean, we do it for like made up holidays, whatever. So
I literally make up holidays. Like I celebrate things that literally don't exist, and I'm like, I don't care. Come over.
It's the busiest day because I just made that up.
Yeah.
Real?
No, for sure. But the new moon is like a good landmark, I think, especially for people who aren't like you and I and don't necessarily like consider and celebrate the moon every day. Then the new moon, the full moon is probably the most popular landmark for people who want to at least bring a little bit of mindfulness to their month. And so the full moon is a great time to be releasing things. So something that we always do at your house, and we'll talk about later, or like in another video, is actually like writing down things that we want to release and then burning it. That was always my favorite thing to do when we went to your house.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you keep going there.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, it felt the most impactful for me. And like the interesting thing was, as I would go to your house month after month, the things that I was releasing, like I saw them changing and I saw them actually going away. And I think that I'm sure there's a lot of explanations for it, but like my kind of practical explanation was just that being there and having that bit of ceremony made it top of mind for me, so that when I caught myself having some sort of like negative self-talk or something like that, I was able to be like, no, like we've discussed this, body. Right. We burnt some shit. No. So it was helpful.
That's actually the whole point of doing any ritual, as far as I'm concerned. And of course, togetherness always amplifies. I mean, especially if you have like a trusted, any one person that's in the same boat, because that's just more of that big energy. But like, even just doing it yourself, it's a private way of saying, you know, fuck this shit. Mm-hmm. I don't, you know, and you don't need to share. You don't need to be outside. You know, you could just do it in your fucking ashtray. You know, like it could be that, but it's as much. And of course, like, as you connect to those things, you want to make it prettier, because like you realize this shit is helping me. You know, this is bringing me into myself. This is like connecting me to things that are bigger than somebody else saying so and deciding for me. You know, this is, and I think that's a big thing. And I love the full moon for the fact that it is big and showy. And that's that big energy, because she's just like, hey, bitches, look up here, pay attention to all this that we got going on. Because I feel like for people that aren't like you and I, who kind of celebrate, practice, or notice every day, it's her chance once a month to just grab anybody that's around, because it's big, it's bright. You know what I mean? And the energy, like people talk about the hospitals, people have babies, everybody has gone mad. Like the energy is undeniable. The ocean is pissed. Everything is crazy. So like, you know, I feel like that's her one chance a month to just like act out and be like, everybody look at me. And, you know, in hopes to just like scoop in more moon babies. And then we all like kind of chill in that. Yeah. And okay, now that we've come out of that, what are we going to do? You know, so I feel like this is a really cool place to actually start this, being like right in that week before.
Yeah, right before.
There's a lot of energy right now. People care now. Mm-hmm. You know, in the new moon, people are like, meh, it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like that was how our new moon chat went too. We were all very low energy. We were kind of pissy.
But everybody's like, fuck this.
Yeah, we were like, Taurus, what? But yeah, like if we should do a full moon chat, and I think we'll see a very big change in all of our energy. It'll be so fun to compare.
I mean, even our energy just right now is like a whole bunch. The other thing was just like, your life sucked today? Yeah, your life sucked today. How bad your life sucked today?
It was.
That was like a new moon bitch fest. Which sometimes you need that. You know what I mean? Which is why it's cool to have like a group of people you can trust, because it's not always fucking sunshine and butterflies. Sometimes shit sucks. You know? It's freeing to be able to say, you know, Blair, I've struggled with keeping my shit together this month. And I'm letting go of these limitations that are saying this is why. You know what I mean? And just sometimes, like you were saying before, the 12 step, I don't really know that much. But I think the sharing and just saying it out loud kind of just gives it a little bit more like amplifying, like lighting a candle. You know what I mean? It does. It just brings more vibration. And, you know, so I feel like all those things kind of go hand in hand. So, yeah. Yeah,
I totally agree. So the second, now the full moon is the middle point, right, of the lunar cycle. So the second part, we're going to gradually see our energy decrease till we get to the new moon again. So there are 3 phases after the full moon. There's the waning gibbous moon, which is like right before we get to the last quarter moon. And the last quarter, Nancy, is probably another place where you feel the most, right? The first quarter and the last quarter are the places where you feel the most energy, or the most, I don't want to say energy, the most like vibration or resonance like from the moon, right?
It's like, you know how to drive a stick?
Yeah, badly, but yes.
Yeah. You know when you change gears?
When you're supposed to change gears and it's not supposed to make lots of noises and shake violently. Okay.
Right. Like if you do it properly, you can feel like your feet kind of let go and the car you can feel like a responding. It's like your vehicle and the body are kind of, just for those moments, are working together. Or the car's fucking pissed and you know, because so you can feel that. It's almost like, I'm like, oh, hello. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah, the last quarter moon is a place where I like to begin my process of taking stock again. Because like the new moon is where I like really sit down with intentionality, but I don't, maybe other people do, but like I don't just sit down and be like, all right, I know all the stuff now. Like I have to really think about it and plan for it and prepare for it. So about like the halfway point between the full and the new moon is like where I start to do that. And I think that's like not by accident. Like that is actually
that makes sense. Usually
the last quarter.
What is that, like 5 days or something? Is that the quarter?
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know. I always have to look it up.
I usually can feel it. Like, so I know like the 9-day ones are the big shifts. It's like we've come out of the buffalo parts, kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the ones where you're right, where it accelerates into that next step, the quarters. Because next week it will be, because I think today is a little bit of a frustration energy more than so dewy.
I'll like at a
like a regular calendar.
No, I'm looking at that.
Oh geez, whoa, what's that?
It's a calendar. It's a moon calendar.
It just looks like a whole lot of circles and
it is a lot of circles. It took me a long time to figure out how to read it, actually.
I know, you just made my whole head explode.
But yes, we are 9 days away from the full moon. The full moon is on the 7th, May 7th.
Oh, okay. Oh man, our kids. Birthdays and full moons.
Yeah. Jackson's May 18th. What is he? He's just a nothing.
Oh, May 18th. For Elias is the 6th.
The 6th, yeah. You're gonna, yeah.
You have that. He's already starting.
Yeah. 3-nager. It's coming.
So totally.
So, okay, anyway, just to finish it off, so that was the last quarter. We got a little sidetracked there.
You can blip that out.
Fine. And then finally the waning crescent. Not really much to talk about that, just really like the last phase before we're back into the new cycle. So again, it's another great time to be thinking about what are our new intentions going to be for this new lunar cycle? How am I feeling about the way things have been going right now? Have I been mindful of the things that I wanted to be changing or working on? And also, let's all remember too, by the way, that like, this is a constant. It's not like you're going to be like, this cycle, I'm going to stop yelling at my kid. And then like all of a sudden you're going to stop, right? Like it's the point of it is just to plant that seed now and let it keep growing and keep coming back to it and watering it as often as we can. So I don't want anyone to ever feel discouraged if 28 days happens and they're like, oh, still yelling at my kid. I guess that doesn't work.
That's exactly what started with me. It was like, well, I need $100,000. It says if I pray to the moon, I'll get, you know what I mean? Like, well, this motherfucker says the moon's going to bring the money. So like, and then 28 days later, the bank account did not say so. And I was like, but you know, it's true. Like, and I wanted to say to that, like a lot of times when I'm thinking about what I want, it isn't even a thing. Sometimes it's just, I just want it to feel a little more easy. Sometimes it's just feelings, you know what I mean? And it's true. It's not about like trying to get from here to an end. It's always about just making things more yours. And when you can really get into it, it's way more about like a great big art project for your life. Just like, oh, and now I'm going to add this. Well, let's take a little of this away and let's add some of this. Like if you can kind of play with it more like that, instead of thinking, give me $50, a dog, and give her to this, you know, not that I would ever say. So, you know, like it's easier to do more like feeling things because it is a feeling process. Versus like what you were saying, like if 28 days you don't have a Bentley, the moon's broke, you know, that's not true. You know, like it's probably not true. It's not impossible though, because you know, what the fuck. But
yeah. No, it's true. I hate those, like, have you ever seen those, what do they call
Probably ones that got me.
What?
Probably one of the ones that got me.
No, the abundance check. So it's like, here's this fake check written out to you from the moon, and you write it in purple because purple's the color of manifestation, and you write down $1 million, like however much money you want to get in the next 28 days. I'm like, stop making people think that that's how that works.
I know.
It's so messed up.
Yeah, and it's so tricky because like it is a literal mind fuck. If you could do that and literally believe you can have in 20 days, you got it. But if there's any doubt, you're like literally pushing that money away from you for the whole time. It's like flipping a coin.
Well, not only that, but like, it's not just as easy as writing a check and then it comes, right? Like, you have to still be paying attention to the nudges from the universe that so many people like miss that part.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, the moon's broke. And it's like, no, you didn't actually pay attention.
Right.
Which actually that brings us to a really great like next point, which is our homework.
Good idea. Yeah.
Because like we've been saying this whole time, so much of practicing the moon cycle, paying attention to lunar cycling has to do with mindfulness. And I think kind of checking and building your intuition, which for me, my intuition, I think for everyone, intuition is really just like spirit talking to you. You know, when you get that gut feeling of like, this is what I should or shouldn't do. I personally just think that's what your higher self is saying. That's what your higher self is telling you. And so being able to tap into that is really important. And I think for me, it really helps me just like make decisions in my life. I used to be so indecisive. I remember it took me 2 days to pick the perfect white envelope for the save the dates for our wedding.
Oh,
I couldn't pick a white envelope. Like, that's how indecisive I was in 2008.
And it mattered, huh?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Finally, Christian was like, no, like, you can't be stressing about this. And he just picked one and bought it. And I was like, thank you. Like, I couldn't do it. And so, you know, like, going from that to where I am now, where like I almost always feel really confident in my decisions. And I know it's just because I'm really tapped into my intuition now. So it's something that I've had to work really hard on. I've cultivated a lot. It's been 7+ years of me like really getting into this place of like understanding myself and my body and what I feel and think and stuff like that. So I think that working with the moon has been a really big part of me building my intuition. And so Nancy and I just wanted other people to be able to experience what it feels like to start trusting your own instincts, even if you don't know why you're trusting them.
Yes. And just while it's fresh in my brain, how you said it's been like 7 years, don't you also feel like if you'd have had somebody to kind of sit down and like put some of the pieces together beforehand, it would have come clear like so much faster?
Yes, absolutely.
Like it was like a scavenger hunt. Like literally until this morning did I even realize that all those pieces even fit together, because like I didn't have anybody like to ask, hey bud. It was just, you know, hit or miss and Google and whatevs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was thinking for me,
oh no.
Yeah. For me, I was thinking to do like an energetic homework assignment, because I do really like journaling and writing, but it's not my strongest spot. So I figured I could kind of leave that for you if you wanted. So for me, like whenever I'm thinking about what I want to either release or bring into my space with the moon, I always connect it to elements. And like what you were saying with intuition, usually I have no idea like what it is. Sometimes it goes, yes, actually that's a lot of the times what it is. A lot of times my intuition will be like, oh, grab that. And next thing I know, I'm realizing that this is a connection to helping like lower anxiety. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, or whatever I was looking at. But like I was thinking before that distraction, I was thinking for my homework part, somewhere between now and the next chat, I would love to do like an item, not, you know, and it doesn't have to make any sense. It doesn't have to be a thing. It could be a couple of things if you're not sure if it makes sense, because I mean, really the more the merrier, and you really can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And that doesn't, and it means, I mean, I wrote down a couple of things because I was like, there's no rules when it comes to that. Like it could be like plants, rocks, live plants, dead plants, fake plants, feathers, you know, fake things, toys. Like I've got toy ornaments sometimes, you know, it could really be anything. So anywhere between now and the next space for my end, I would just say, anything that you feel drawn to, especially if you have no idea why, it's like a learning to trust. I would just say, just pick it up, or just like make a little pile, or even just write it down. And then when we talk next time, we'll connect more dots there about, even if it's just one of those things. Like me and Blair were talking, like, even if you just take a walk around the block and if something just says, pick me up, just pick up that thing. And then we'll figure out what that could mean, because it all does actually mean something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually don't have anything to add. Like, we're going, like she said, we're going to connect the dots in later chats. And so just like start feeling into your everyday lives. And not just you, like if you have kids, if you have pets and you're out walking your dog and your dog is spending some extra time sniffing a flower, then pick the flower. Like,
right,
who knows?
Your pets are a lot of times communicating with and for you. Like, especially people that are really close to their pets, they can get you guys can get a really wicked communication thing going on.
For sure.
For
sure. So our next chat will be Friday at 2, right?
Friday at 2, able to function.
Yeah, we don't know if it's going to be on Zoom or Facebook Live, but Friday at 2, expect to see us. We will obviously let you know ahead of time where we're going to be. And we'll start talking more about why we are picking random objects off the street or out of our house and ways that we've used them over the years.
Yes, it's actually going to be really fun. That part is really fun.
Yeah, I agree. The next part, this was a necessary part to get us all on the same page, but the next part's definitely going to be.
And I have an editing thing. I'm going to make it a little shorter.
Is it long? I don't know how long this is.
I don't know. I feel like it's been a while.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Carrie, live. Thanks to everyone who watches.
I'm sorry I didn't get to hear you talk again, Carrie.
There'll be more. All right, you guys, everybody have a great day.
See you guys. Friday.
See you Friday. Bye.
Oh, I don't know what to do now.
Leave meeting, friends.
Oh, leave. End.